work with other frameworks aside the Scrum framework in the Agile environment. So I would like to hear a bit about your experience. Maybe share an incident if
Yeah.
possible.
Well, it wasn't exactly a choice. It was just what was obtainable, right? Scrum arguably is the most utilized framework in agile space, right? It's the most popular. And then even when you start getting into agile and you're reviewing things on the internet and all of that, you're gonna see things like, oh,
Management experience, where we share real life experiences of project managers in the project management domain. Today we have a very special guest, and that is because he's not the typical project manager. He is a scrum master, a senior scrum master actually. He did pivots from being a project manager into becoming a scrum master and a senior scrum master. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not know that being a scrum master is actually still a part and function of being a project manager or being in a project management space. So it is definitely part of the project management domain. So let's dive in. Project management experience, and today we have Banky Lawani, who is a senior scrum master, actually transited from a project management role into becoming a scrum master and then a senior scrum master. Welcome to today's episode, Banky. How are you doing today? I call him Banky anyway.
thank you, Cindy. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's preferably Banky. Makes it easier for everyone to relate with that. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for gracing today's episode. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey through becoming a project manager, and transiting, pivoting into that role of becoming a scrum master and a senior scrum master? Tell us a little bit about, how that journey was for you.
Well, like this is taking me back, some 15 years ago. Um, I got into project management. My career has always been in project management space, starting from being the project coordinator to a project manager, working with infrastructure development projects and software development projects. And that I did up until 2018, 19, maybe 2019 thereabout, before I decided to delve into agile project management. I was just browsing, and then I got to see things about agile project management. I was interested, and then I got into it, and the rest is history. However, I like to always say that being a project manager, the way I see it, is not exactly different from being a scrum master in terms of those soft skills that you would need to deploy to support your team. Whether you're a project manager, whether you're a scrum master, you don't get to do these things yourself. Like the work, you depend on team members to do the work. You help them, you support them, and you make sure you motivate your team members. And in doing all of this, you actually require the same set of skills, the way I say it, right? Whether you are the PM, whether you are the Scrum Master. So for me, transitioning into that role as a Scrum Master, for me, I found it easy. I didn't struggle with that because I know that the way to succeed as a PM or as a Scrum Master is to understand that there's a lot you need to invest in terms of supporting your team, serving your team, helping your team. And of course, from being a Scrum Master, is there really any silver bullet to becoming maybe from being a scrum master to senior scrum master? Well, it just happened, and I got the role, right? And I think I'm doing well at it, and I'm happy to share whatever it is that would help people out there to get into the space.
All
Did I
right,
answer the
and
question?
congratulations. Yes, you
Thank
did,
you, Cindy.
Banky. Thank you so much
Thank,
for sharing that.
thank you, Cindy. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to piggyback on what you talked about with respect to how you're ensuring that you're carrying the team along, how you ensure that you're, working with the different teams and stakeholders. And of course, a lot of people do not know that, being a Scrum Master is actually part of also being a project manager. It's just that you are then working with a separate team and you are doing more, with the Scrum teams. It's still a big part of project management, but in the agile space. Now, I want to piggyback on something you said with respect to interaction and ensuring you're facilitating the team. Can you tell us a little bit about how you facilitate collaboration and communication within a Scrum team?
Oh, great. So without sounding, academic on this subject, I always like to tell people that regardless of where you are playing, whether you're a project manager, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're developing IT projects, or just anything out there, it's just fundamental that for a team to work well, they have to connect, right? And for teams to connect, they must there must be conscious effort to establish that relationship, interpersonal relationship among team members, and that would foster the collaboration. Let's focus on making people feel comfortable to, work with themselves, work with one another, and know one another beyond the work that they do. Once we get to that point, people find it easier to call on their colleagues to say, "Hey, I need help with this." Now, there's no fear of judgment at that point. There's no fear of, oh, is this person's going to think that I don't know this, because they have established that friendship, they have established that connection. So for me, the way I like to help my team, I'll give you a typical example. I encourage my team beyond me as a Scrum Master, having one-on-one with team members. I also encourage team members to have one-on-one with each other. And the way I make sure they do that is to conduct things like show and tell, where you're going to tell us what you have learned about your team member, right? And then that encourages team members to keep in mind uh, interesting things, facts about their fellow team members. And then it builds the relationship and then the team building, right? Because for me, there's no rocket science. Once you are able to help people to see themselves as human beings first, other things will fall in place, right?
Yes,
Most times,
yes.
the lack of trust, not being sure of how this person views me, how this person views failure, how this person views not knowing enough, makes people to withdraw and cover whatever it is that they could have taken advantage of in terms of learning, right? So for me, that's just the simple thing. There's no book thing about this. Make sure that people see themselves as humans first. And I lead with that. I make sure that I meet with my team members, no matter how busy we get. I touch base with my team members once in a month, right? Each team member, that's one on one, right? Talk, chat, and help them see the benefits of collaboration. Because, as a matter of fact, Scrum specifically, or Agile, thrives on collaboration. We're not looking for individual success, we're looking for the team success, right? So that's for
Beautiful,
me, that's it.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, and that definitely points fingers towards the self-actualization piece, which is of course topmost on the Maslow's hierarchy of need. That when you make people feel like they belong, and when you delegate appropriately, carry them along, then definitely they start to feel as part of the team. So thank you so much for sharing that. Really appreciate that, Banky. Now I want to take a step back
Okay.
and
Feel
ask
free.
a question concerning, yes. So I want to ask a question. question concerning the Scrum framework. So, what really informed you choosing the Scrum framework? And have there been instances where you had to, choose or maybe work with other frameworks aside the Scrum framework in the Agile environment? So, I would like to, hear a bit about your experience. Maybe share an incident if
Yeah.
possible.
Well, it wasn't exactly a choice. It was just what was obtainable, right? Scrum arguably is the most utilized framework in agile space, right? It's the most popular. And then even when you start getting into agile and you're reviewing things on the internet and all of that, you're gonna see things like, oh, we have a number of frameworks, Scrum, Kanban, XP, even the ones that are doing the hybrid thing. But in the end, it would zero in on Scrum being the most used framework, and the role of a Scrum Master was very popular then, right? In terms of knowing Agile was almost synonymous to Scrum, such that we have consciously, made people to see that, yeah, Scrum is Agile, but Agile is not Scrum. Don't make the mistake, right? That you are doing Agile does not mean it has to be Scrum. So for me, it wasn't that it was a choice, it was just what it was, right? So I went into Scrum, I got to know more about Scrum, and from there, I started doing that, right? Deploying, supporting software development teams using Scrum framework. However, understand that Scrum framework took um, so many things like, the way of work and the things about team from other frameworks, like from Kanban, for example. When you're visualizing your work, all these things come from Kanban. Managing work in progress limit, you could take some of these things from the XP programming. That the idea of daily Scrum meeting every day is from all of this, right? So it's just a combination of practices that are okay. And when you remember, if you take your mind back to Scrum, it says, to Agile, it says we are uncovering ways, right, of doing this, of developing software. Now, it didn't say we have uncovered, which means it's continuously um, uh, uh, so it's just something that you continuously discover and improve on. So for me, it was Scrum because it was what it was then. Then Kanban framework, I've used Kanban before, and that was for operational work where we didn't have to do sprint, the sprint thing. It was just operational. You get the request, it will be in the backlog, and the team will prioritize based on, which one would have the most effect in terms of, do we need to fix this urgently? Whatever that criteria is, the team agreed on it with the business, and then they would run things using the Kanban framework. So Kanban, Scrum, in terms of the board itself, there isn't so much difference if you don't really look deep, right? It's just what it is. So for me, that was what it was.
Beautiful, fantastic. Thank you, Banky, for sharing that experience as well. Now, I'm going to ride on something you said as regards, not something, I think all through your discussions, you actually have been buttressing on working with a team, ensuring that you're coordinating them. I'm very interested in knowing and sharing with everyone who will be listening as well, how you work with the Scrum team and help them remain focused on, delivering value. How do you help them, remain focused on meeting the sprint goals as well, during your work and during your work, during your project work anyway?
Oh, thank you. That's a fantastic question. I like to always answer questions like this with, take our mind back to the principles, the Agile Manifesto, right? That has the principles and the values. And the reason for that is it is the bedrock of how we do things. It would, if you appreciate and understand the principles and the values, then team members will understand the why. So I spend a lot of time to explain, to discuss, to coach the team, to interact with the team on the manifesto itself and what it means. And if you look at the principles, quite a number of those principles are, laser focused on customer delivery. The way we measure progress is working software. You want to do this frequently. You want to work with the business. So for me, that is it. You must let people understand the framework, the Agile Manifesto, and that way they will see the reason behind everything that we do. Number two, I like to ask my developers if meeting a new development team. I like to ask them one simple question. A developer, for example, I will say, "What do you think your role is in this team?" Right? Some developers have told me in the past that, well, as a developer, I'm a programmer. I'm just going to code, and I'm just going to code. I'm just going to do my thing, code, right? And I say to them, no, that's where you miss it. Your role is not to code. Your role is to deliver value to customer. Your role is to deliver workable software, working software features that customers will appreciate. So there's a mindset shift that I try to achieve. If you think your role as a developer is just to code, then you're just going to sit, code. You may not even interact well with team members. You may not see the need for customer engagement. You may not see the need for customer centricity. You may not see the need, uh, for many other engagement that happens. So it's about customer. And that's the big thing about Agile, right? That's not to say that it doesn't happen in traditional project management approaches, but the big thing is customer engagement, and the people that will be leading customer engagement, developers, are key part of this. They must understand that their role is not to write those lines of codes. It's beyond that. You must ask yourself at the end of it all, have I helped in delivering value? Can customers use these features? Does it make sense? Right? So for me, it's about mindset shift. That's what it is. And again, one thing that helps me is I keep thinking about the many stances of a Scrum Master. A Scrum Master, we must remember that you are a coach, so that should help you think, in what ways can I support my team? That keeps me up every day. As a facilitator, how can I help them? Make sure that they're running the necessary events. Are there people the team need to meet? Are there other stakeholders? Are there other technical teams that need to support them? As a process owner, right? You remember that you need to ensure that people understand the process and we are following the process, right? Processes that would help in delivering value. As an enabler, you need to think, how can you enable your team, right? As a servant leader, you need to think, how can you support the team? How can you think about ways for them to develop? How can you listen to them? How can you be more empathetic? These are things that keep me up to think, oh, okay, how can I do better with this team? So for me, one, people must appreciate the Agile Manifesto. Two, there's a mindset shift that happens when you engage with team members. And three, you must remind yourself your role as a Scrum Master, remembering the many stances of a Scrum Master, and use that to make sure that you are checking the boxes, right? So I believe I've answered your question in my own
You
little way.
have, you have, you have, you have. In fact, I don't know how to. Truth is that I'm dumbstruck, but thank you so much. Very, very perfect answer. I love the mindset shift response. I love, of course, the response as well with respect to the role, being an enabler. All of that is just so amazing. Thank you for sharing that robust
Right.
and very detailed answer. Now, Coming back to your role as a Master, can you tell us a little bit about a day in the life of a Scrum Master? What is your typical day like? Like when you wake in the morning, do you start the Scrum ceremonies? How does it work for you, really?
Okay, great. So the only thing that is constant about the Scrum Master day to day for me, I'm not gonna hold brief for other people, is the daily Scrum, because we know it happens every day at a particular time, right? So other than that, other days are not very defined. It could range from meeting with developers, having one-on-one with team members to check on them. It could be facilitating discussion between the Scrum team and some other technical team out there. It could be facilitating discussion between the product owner and the stakeholders. And it could also be chasing some other things to help remove impediments, right? So there's no typical day in, like I said, other than the daily scrum, and other than those days that we do the events, right? There's nothing typical about it, because it would vary. There are days that I log in, after the daily scrum, and the only thing we're dealing with is how to get licenses for developers. That's been a delay from people, then have to chase that down for the team. That's just it. There's no typical day, really, and that's what
All
makes it
right, thank
interesting,
you.
because you don't even know what you're gonna meet sometimes, right?
I like that. Sounds very adventurous, for especially for
That
people like me that are spontaneous, that likes, you
oh,
don't like the monotonous way of doing things.
yeah, and that's not very, and I'm sure that's not very different from the role of a PM too. Sometimes you get to work and you think you're just gonna, sometimes you write things down, to-do list. I'm just gonna send this report. I'm gonna check on this person, on that person, and then you get to work. The first thing that hits you is we can't even launch. Something is going on. We can't do
There's
this
a
release,
bug.
and then
Yes.
you start chasing people. Before you know it, you spend the entire day trying to resolve that, right? So yeah, you
Yes.
just have to
Yes.
have the open mind, and the willingness to do these things, and the perseverance.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
All right. Now, in terms of, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, in terms of being a project manager and being a scrum master, and I know you will
Yeah,
smile there
yeah. Talk
because we
to
have
me
had
about
this
that.
discussion, right?
Yeah.
So, which would you say is a perfect role for you and why?
Um. Well, that's putting me on the spot. For me, I've been in both sides. I've done the two, and I can tell you, with due respect to project managers, like doing the trad project management thing, I enjoy working as a Scrum Master. I enjoy working in the Agile space. I enjoy, you know, the the way of work, the big shift from the let's just get these requirements, let's document heavily, let's do these things, and we're just going to keep to the scope, right? We're going to do what the customers have asked us. you know that is it. But the difference, and this is why I love the agile space, working as a scrum master, it's just beyond what the customer is saying, right? Even if the customer says, give us one, two, three, right? We will be within our right to give one, two, three, and say we have done what the customer asked us. But the business world has grown beyond that. It's more challenging than that. So the agile space makes me see these things every now and then. You have to care about beyond what the customer said. Are we sure that this will actually meet customers' expectation? Will it deliver value? Will it give them what they are actually hoping to get? So we're not just looking at scope, right? So that interaction makes me love being a Scrum Master. I really love it.
Awesome.
Thank
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to round up with this last question, and that is for project managers that are currently practicing project management, maybe not as a project manager, but in any other space, maybe as a project coordinator or an administrator, whatever, they are, doing, whatever they're practicing in the project management space, and those that are about getting into the project management space. Now, I've looked around and I've seen that a lot of companies today are looking for not just people that are, utilizing the waterfall model, but people that also understand the agile environment. So that even if the company is not currently practicing agile, but they can help them to transit into, the agile space. Now, what is your advice for project managers out there in terms of getting the agile project management knowledge and skill set?
Oh, thank you. So, one, I would say that for project managers out there, don't be frantic. It's not difficult. It's just a mindset shift, right? Being agile starts with the mind. And that's why many people say agile is a mindset. Agile simply means being flexible, right? Being nimble. We're not going to be very rigid, right? Who is that person that has planned to drive from point A to B following a particular route, and then on the way you get to see that something goes wrong, and your ability to pivot, your ability to move away and join another lane, another route. It's what we're saying here, right? So the mindset shift has to be there.
All right, thank you so much. No, no, no. I totally agree with you because really a lot of companies and are becoming more agile, more adaptable, more flexible, involving customers more. And for you to be able to attain that level of agility, it is really crucial that as a PM, right, you start to adopt that mindset and coach teams to have that same mindset as well. So it's been a wonderful day really chatting with you, Banky. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us. 15 years of experience. Gosh, that's a long time. That's a lifetime, actually.